Okay, hello everyone, this is Science Viking. I hit the next level button a little too early. Oops.
We were 2 days in that tunnel out of Covenant, the Watcher crossing above us every few hours, shaking the ground in his fury, and twice nearly burying us alive. Sometime on the second day, the tremors grew less distinct, and we were relieved to find nothing but rats and mosquitoes waiting for us when we reached Shoal. Not wishing to return west, we headed down the coast toward the old city of Scales, where we met Maeldon's southern garrison and turned over the Codex. We learned there that by coincidence the combined armies of the North are only 4 days behind us, heading for the mountains to stop the Deceiver, another of the Fallen Lords, from crossing the Cloud Spine before winter. But we can't wait for them. There is a world knot west of the Cloud Spine, and the head insists that the enemy has learned to travel through the knots. If we don't destroy this portal, we might hold the mountains only to be outflanked by forces emerging from the knot behind us. 8 Dwarven irregulars and every man in Scales from the Legion have volunteered for the mission.
Yep. 8 dwarves.
You fools! Where do you think you're going?
We see them here. We have 8
Then
dwarves.
you waste your time. The gods aren't listening.
There's no way that can possibly go wrong. And a decent number of archers. And we have a lot fewer melee units, but they're a lot stronger. These are berserks. They are shirtless Scotsmen wielding claymores. For some strange reason, I have always had a bit of an empathy with the berserks. And they're going to be fun to use this level. Anyway, I'm going to quick start us up a fresh recording file. I'll be back in a second. Alright, I'm back. And, well, it's been a couple of days in that few seconds. Anyway, so yeah, we have a new unit type. These are berserks. They move significantly faster than warriors, as you can kind of already see. They also attack faster, and I think they do more damage. To balance that out, however, they're considerably more fragile, which I suppose makes sense considering the fact that their armor consists of a loincloth and possibly an athletic cup. So they're overall, I'd say, a superior unit. The higher speed and damage really does make up for the loss of defense. It more than makes up for it. But you do have to be more careful with them than you do with warriors. Also, yeah, we have 8 dwarves. There's no way this can go badly. Alright, we got our first group of enemies. Let's get the berserks mostly out of the way. Get the archers in, pull the dwarves back, and then just take 2 of them.
Ready. Stand clear. Hey, move it. Yes.
Okay, pull the archers back a little farther.
Yeah. Burn. Ready. Step aside. Step aside. Yes.
Alright.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Move there.
Alright, send the berserks in to finish the job.
Stand clear. Stand clear. Hey, step aside. Hey, sir.
Alright, archers continue falling back.
Step aside. Step aside.
And now that the berserks pretty much have the thrall handled, the archers can take out that one remaining soulless, and we get back in formation and keep moving forward. Also, forgot to mention this earlier, there are actually 2 routes through this level. Since each one takes a fairly long time, I'm probably just going to do this level twice in 2 separate videos. So video 1 will be the more normal and obvious route through this level, which is the one I'm doing, where you just follow the path. And then my next video will actually be this same level again, but taking a different route through it. Also, you may have noticed that I told you what I have 2 rules for doing these Let's Plays. I told you what rule number 1 was, and then forgot to mention rule number 2. Rule number 2 is, I will not give up on an attempt on a level until I actually get a game over. So even if I lose most of my guys and have 1 warrior remaining or something, I'm still going to keep trying until I actually fully lose. because some of the most entertaining moments in this series are when you just barely succeed with a set of units that you really weren't meant to be using for that situation. Anyway, now we see this giant force of enemies meant to ambush us. We could try just charging in, just rushing in and trying to fight our way up, but it really isn't a good idea. So what I'm going to do instead is just have the archers move in and kind of harass the enemies until they decide to follow us back across the water. It's unusual. They generally won't all follow us at the same time. Also, now the regular villagers are being attacked by ghouls.
Chill.
Run away! Run away!
The ghouls aren't...
Ready?
We don't actually need to protect the villagers, but the ghouls are necessary for...
Save us!
One more. Well, the archers have finally managed to take damage.
Run for it!
We don't actually need to protect the villagers, but the ghouls could ambush us and wind up coming after our dwarves and archers later, so we do want to get rid of the ghouls.
That was mine.
Also, probably because the ghouls are lighter, they can run on this frozen river even though we can't. What's kind of funny about that is that we can walk through the water under the river, but we can't run on top of the ice, even though presumably we would fall through the ice into the river that we can walk on top of.
Sir?
Like, I guess they couldn't afford an ice-breaking animation, and so they just went with saying that we're not allowed to walk on it.
That was mine.
Alright. The main thing is that the ghouls can easily retreat back onto the ice where the berserks can't follow them, so we're going to need to let the archers gradually pick them off. This has been a very archer-heavy playthrough, and that's likely to continue for a while. Dwarves get most of the glory, but archers usually do most of the work.
Got him! Money! Yeah! That was mine!
Okay.
I got you.
Now, because I don't want to wait all of the time it would take for the archers to pick those ghouls off, I'm going to advance on the next group of enemies and just keep the berserks close by. We have a couple of berserks back here with the dwarves, too.
Sir?
Alright. And keep advancing.
Yes? Stand clear.
And they'll do that.
Got him!
Okay, these thrall are following us, so we retreat back across the river again. And yeah, just back and forth and back and forth and back and forth until they're all dead. Got our dwarves ready. You may notice I'm not actually using the 8 dwarves that I have. It's because various kinds of mishaps get more and more common the more dwarves you have active at the same time. You really should never deploy dwarves in groups larger than 3. And even a group of 3 is really more for when you're fighting against a lot of enemies all at once. You may remember from the previous level, actually, one grenade went off and it caused another grenade to go flying. Like, go flying off into the distance. As it happened, that was helpful to me because it took out a white, but where the grenade goes when that happens is extremely unpredictable. And let the berserks finish that off. No, do not attack.
Stand clear.
Where the grenade goes is actually really unpredictable when that happens. And so, as often as not, it will fly back into your own forces and kill a whole bunch of them. And the more dwarves you have firing at the same time, the more likely it is that something like that will happen. So you want to be careful and not use your
Ready?
and not use too many dwarves all at once. Remember, practice safe dwarfing. Okay, that one didn't really work. Alright. Keep walking. There's only one major group left. Alright, keep firing.
Hey, step aside.
As long as the berserks are there to keep an eye on the goals, which I can see on the mini-map too, which does make it easier.
Stand clear.
Have them get into a slightly better formation. And now I can actually start having... Since this group appears to be determined to keep retreating, I can actually start moving the rest of my force up. I am going to have the archers continue to follow them, though.
Hey, step aside. Yes.
Well, now they're ready to fight. No.
Yes.
Yeah.
Move here, move there. Sir? Step aside. Incoming! That was mine. Oh yeah. Got him. Whee!
Yep, I double-clicked on my dwarves, meaning to select just the two I was actively using, and I got all 8. That'll happen sometimes. It's one of the reasons why I try to actually keep them physically separated. If they're far enough, if 2 units of the same type are far enough away from each other, double-clicking on one of them won't get the other. So what I have here is I have the 2 dwarves, 8 archers, and 3 berserks that I'm actively using, and the 2 berserks and 6 dwarves that I'm holding in reserve in case I need them for something. Mainly to act as replacements. The berserks are only there in case something happens to keep goals from ambushing the dwarves. Otherwise, this back force is basically the reserve, since not only do I not need them, they can actually get in the way if too many of them are active at once. Just keep advancing. Turned at exactly the wrong moment. Yeah, the AI in this game is actually surprisingly impressive, especially for when it was made. I mean, it's far from perfect. It is entirely possible to manipulate the AI in various ways, but it's smarter than you'd expect for a game this old.
Yes? Yes!
And now, once the soulless are gone, the thrall no longer benefit from moving back and forth, so they'll just charge. Okay, aim for the biggest clump. And that grenade actually set off a dud from a previous shot.
Yes.
Stand clear. Sir? That was mine. Hey,
Get back up.
stand clear. Stand clear. Got him. Hey, buddy. Sorry.
Yes, they were aware enough of the friendly fire that they recorded unique lines for a unit both being hit with friendly fire and hitting an ally with friendly fire. So you'll have heard the archer actually apologized for that bit of friendly fire.
Mic up, yeah.
Obviously, melee units don't have I accidentally hit an ally lines because they can't accidentally hit an ally. But yeah, there's a surprisingly large amount of stuff that your units can say.
Yes. Sir?
However, there is no equivalent of I would have been your daddy from the Halo series. Okay. Get you into position, get you dwarves into position here. And this is the thing we're going to destroy. So they would expect that we would run a dwarf up here to place some satchel charges around one of the pillars to blow it up. However, there's a reason why I'm not doing that, which you will see momentarily.
Sir?
Alright. Get a little closer. Yep, as soon as it starts to activate, immediately turn around and run away, because a white will teleport in. Apparently the enemy does know how to use these things. The white will then be followed by a force of Soulless and Thrall. But if you send pretty much anything slower than a Berserk to trigger that ambush, it will probably die. If you'd sent a Dwarf especially, the Dwarf would almost certainly be killed when the white emerged and exploded. So you set up your ambush on the enemy, and essentially ambush their ambush. Of course, it's not that hard to guess that they would try something like that. But of course, I have the advantage of having done this before, just a few times. Okay, that's the last of the enemy that will teleport through, so now we just need to destroy the gate itself, the world knot itself. However, I believe something in the scripting makes it so that as soon as you reach this point, every enemy in the map will start coming towards you.
Ready?
Yes.
And the Berserks should not attempt to take on that many Thrall all at once.
I'm moving. Over here.
Money.
I have a choice at this point between letting the enemy, between just blowing the knot and ending the level, or finishing these enemies off first. I feel like finishing them off first. Just I figure we can take them, I may as well. Though there are some levels where you win by completing an objective right before everyone else on your side gets annihilated. That is a thing that will happen occasionally.
Hey, step aside. Step aside. Hey, step aside. Step
Okay.
aside. Stand clear. Step aside. Step aside. Stand clear. Money. Step aside. Ready? Step aside. Got him.
Okay, and at this point, the Berserks can finish that for us.
Mic up your mind.
Yeah, once you get to a certain point, every enemy left on the map will just all converge on your position. I guess because they figure that you're close enough to completing the mission that they need to do that. And now, we have their satchel charges set, and it's done. That's the end of that. I'd say that mission went pretty well. No casualties. Damage rate of 14.38 to 1. 93 kills, most of them were Thrall and Soulless. A few goals, too. 3 out of our 4 heroes are archers, and the one who isn't is a dwarf. I also think it's kind of funny. The dwarf has killed the same number of guys as an archer. Of course, the archer has had a lot more battles to do that in. Anyway, so that's the end of that, and since this is nearly 20 minutes long already, and the next episode will probably be the same length, the next route will probably be the same length, and I don't want to drop a 40-minute video, I'm going to do a... the next video will be the same mission, taking the alternate route through it. So, until then, which will hopefully be next week, this is Science Viking, signing off, as usual. I love you all, and I will see you next time.